You know, I think we're going to talk about the difference between weekday and weekend skiing this week on the Ski Rex Media Podcast. How you doing, everyone? It's Tim from Ski Rex Media once again, and I got the idea for this topic because of a Twitter conversation that was going on between me and Ski Rex Media fans, Lance and Rob and Rochelle and Eric, and I think there were a couple others even kicking around in this one. If you listen to this and you know you were part of that, shout it out so we know, so we can give you the proper shout out that you deserve. But we ended up talking about the difference between weekend, going on the weekend and going during the week. And I think it started, and I know I could go look it up, but I'm not going to. We're just going to roll with it. I think it started because Rob showed us a picture of the lift lines, the mess, the crowd at Hunter Mountain in the Catskills in New York State. And then it just kind of, rolled from there. This is why I ski on the weekend. This is why I ski during the week, and so on and so forth. And the differences are obvious. I'm sure you know them. And it really does come down to personal preference. For me, I've always been more often than not, a midweek skier, and actually early week skier, I should say. Now, when I worked in the industry, I worked the weekends. You work for a ski mountain, you work the weekends. That's the busiest time. That's when they need everybody there. And the same when I went on to retail and logistics. I still had Monday and Tuesday, and for a while Wednesday off. So I was always a midweek skier. When I worked in the industry, I was off on Monday, Tuesday. So that's when I was, riding around Mount Snow without being on the clock. That's when I was up at Killington again without being on the clock. That's when I was doing all that stuff. And then when I moved to New Jersey, had the same days off. So I would still come up here to see my friends and family, obviously come back to Vermont to visit everyone and go skiing. Also midweek. Now, I have come to prefer it, and this is going to sound bad. The big difference is, as I see it, other than the frustration, obviously midweek, no frustration, weekend can be a lot of frustration. It's really, there's also a social part of it. I do, and I'm sure everybody does get a kick out of skiing or snowboarding during the week, because a person almost has the mountain to themselves. There's not many people out there during the week. I mean, unless it's, a holiday week, but holiday week and weekends go hand in hand. Excuse me. Give me a little drink of water there. Holiday weeks and weekends go hand in hand. So if you ski during a holiday week, it's just as just as busy and crowded as a weekend. It's just a long weekend. So anybody who prefers the week prefers to get away from the crowds. You definitely have less traffic. You definitely have a place to park. There's not as many lift lines. The terrain is wonderful because there's no one tearing it up. But weekends, you do miss out on an entire the social part of it, the social gathering. Because while you do have the mountain to yourself, you only really end up talking to yourself during the week. You know what I'm saying? Where on the weekend, you could be in a chair, whether it be double, triple, quad, 6-pack, 8-pack, if you got one of those at your home mountain. You got a lot of different people to talk to. A gondola, no matter the size, on a weekend becomes the friggin' Canterbury Tales. That's Chaucer's work personified. You have so many stories, so many people who've seen so many different things and who are going to say so many different things and not care. Believe me, in a gondola is where I've heard more people who have come to the East and will tell you that the West is better. Or you'll have one guy who said, "Oh, I'm from Colorado," and then you have 5 guys who say, the West is nothing. It's amazing how often that argument comes up, and it shouldn't. It's just different. It's not better or worse. It's just different, and it's what you prefer. And the same with this weekend versus weekday thing. It's really just what you prefer. And if you are a social person, obviously, this is the time to come, because that's when everybody's there. If you like talking to people, if you want to be with, families, it's easier for 2, 3, 4 families to go together on a weekend, because the majority of people are off during the weekend. That's I mean, traditionally, I don't know if that's actually true anymore, but it certainly seems like it, 5-day work weeks, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And then there's those who work on the weekend, which are the ones who are working at the ski resort. And then we're skiing on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So back to the social idea of it, like I said, I've heard and learned a lot from riding those gondolas and those chairs from other people. And it's a good time talking to people. It really is. Like, even like there was a time I was a really shy kid, and shy, even shy, very shy into my adult years. And so it wasn't always easy, but if they started a conversation with me, I'll start a conversation. I'll carry the conversation with them. And I know that's not something you find all the time in this day of portable this device, portable that device, the AirPods and earphones and all kinds of crazy stuff. Not everybody's interested in that, but I mean, the weekend, that's a big part of it. I mean, just look at the après ski scene. Every bar has a band or has something going on. If you're there to meet, dudes or chicks, whatever, that's when you would do it. Because on a Monday, there's no girls there. There's no boys there. There's just you. So if you're there looking for love, which we're going to talk about next week, since the end of next week is Valentine's Day. That's going to be the theme for next week, is Valentine's Day, sort of. I'm still working it out, but we'll see. Anyway, that really is the big difference to me. Obviously, there is the frustration. I still say the biggest difference is the social part, because there is the frustration, but you don't have to have that frustration. That frustration comes from going to the places that are the best well-known, the most popular, where everybody goes. Everyone goes there. You can look around, you say in Vermont, I'm here, so I'll talk about Vermont. On any given day, Mount Snow, on any given weekend, I should say, Mount Snow could be and would be packed. Stratton could be and would be packed. But right up the road from Stratton is Bromley, and it's not as packed. Now, it's got a great location. It's right on a main highway, not an interstate type highway, a 2-lane, 50 mile an hour, Vermont State 11, Route 11, so it's in a good location. So it definitely is busy, but it's not as busy as the other, the bigger places. And even Magic Mountain, I would say. Now, I don't know their numbers. Obviously, I don't know any of their numbers, and I could be 100% wrong about this, but I bet you on a Saturday and Sunday, you have more, or I should say you have less people, less crowding, so more, more of the good, the positives that come with less crowding on a Saturday or a Sunday. And Magic Mountain is also on that Route 11, if I remember correctly. But where it is, it's not, it's not, I can't say it's not as accessible, but it feels like it's kind of in the back, as opposed to where Bromley, though on the same road, is right out in the open, right in your face. I don't know why it feels like that to me. I don't know. I've driven that route so many times that I don't even try. I try to stay away from it nowadays because it's so damn boring when I'm traveling around the state. But that's a whole other story. No, but seriously, the smaller mountains, or the less well-known mountains, or the mountains that cater more to a local crowd. Ski mountains aren't necessarily there to cater to locals. They are there to cater to the tourists who are going to spend the money. I love Mount Snow. We all know that. But it's big, and it's pretty well known, and it's the first place you hit in Vermont if you're coming from the south, So, it's going to have, it has a great reputation. People love it. It's on the Epic Pass now, so that could bump its visits up. So on a weekend, that place is going to be jammed than it always was. But during the week, it's not. So if you can time out during the week, if you want to get away from, like I said, the frustration is always going to be there. But I don't think it's the biggest difference, because you can go to other places and get away from the crowds, which I think is something we're all going to start to see. A lot of blame for the current overcrowding issues at ski mountains is on the mega passes. So that means those people who want to get away from those crowds are going to spread out to the smaller, less well-known, independent, like the Indy Pass Mountains. They're going to spread out to those, and that means we're just not gonna, that's going to change. In the end, the mega pass is going to help the smaller mountains and maybe hurt itself because of the overcrowding. It's just a theory. Obviously, I just stumbled through it, so I don't have the theory completely worked out, but I'm working on it. But anyway, so the frustration can be avoided by just picking the right place to go. And then some people would say, well, why would I do that? The smaller mountains are just that smaller. They might be. You may not have as many trails to ride. You might not have as many acres to ride. But, you do have, similar snow because obviously it's in a similar place. So the climate is going to be similar. You're going to have similar snow. Well, all right. There is true that that's also based on each mountain's snowmaking capabilities dependent upon the winter that we are having. Like Vermont's winter this year is kind of rough. So the smaller places that don't have the snowmaking, the bigger places have, obviously then the snow is going to be different. But on average, with natural combined with snowmaking, everybody's about the same because we're all in the same place. The temperature's the same, the weather's the same. And again, I know elevation, further north, further south. I get it, but you know what I mean. The smaller places may be smaller, but you can have just as good of an experience. So you can get away from the crowds and alleviate the frustration. So the weekend really comes down to, for me anyway, the social part of it. I do try to avoid, there is a part of me that likes to avoid the weekend because of the frustrations of the traffic and the parking and, all that stuff. But there's a ways around that and the long lift lines. But like I said, there's ways around that. So it does come down to the social. And like I said, the social is could be a lot of fun. Meeting people, talking to people, flirting, whatever. For me, I have a lot of stories. In fact, in the book, the Ski Rex Media storybook that I'm starting to write, you'll see that when I'm done with it. I tell a story that we heard in a gondola, and it still gets to me to this day. It's not a great story. It's just an odd story. At least the way I tell it, it feels kind of odd. So you meet a lot of people. You learn a lot of stuff. Another reason it's kind of rough to ski on weekends. And I guess I kind of do prefer weekdays. One of the things that happens at the mountains on the weekends is all the events. And not just like stuff in the bars, the bands and the drink specials and all this and that, but like racing or competitive events or special things that happen during the day. Now the ones at night, that doesn't matter, that's just at night. But when the mountains open, take for example the Home Lake Killington Cup. I like to go. I've gone a couple of times to see the professional women do slalom and GS, and it's a lot of fun. I go there specifically as a spectator. It's on a weekend. It's on a holiday weekend, actually. It's right after Thanksgiving. And to go on that weekend, I'm not going there to ski. I'm going there completely as a spectator. So while I could probably ski that day, I don't. But then again, that's, like I said, that's a function of the event, and that's what I'm going to see. And then I'll get my skiing in, Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday after the event is over. So that's, for me, is the big difference between the weekdays and the weekends. I could be wrong. You could have a better idea. You could have a different preference. And that's really what it comes down to. And I hope that's what comes across as part of Ski Rex Media because, for instance, one of the things I've avoided doing is a top 10 list. I always see them in the news or on different websites or whatever. Top 10 this resort, top 10 resorts in the US, top 10 resorts in the world, top 10 best lines, top 10 this, top 10 that. It's all bogus. It really comes down to what you or me or whomever else prefers. So I can't tell you if weekends are better than weekdays. I know I prefer weekdays from time to time because life was in my way and, just scheduling. And like I said, because I could avoid the crowds. I could easily avoid the crowds. It's really not hard, especially right where I am now. I have so many mountains within an hour of me. All I have to do is find the one that has the least amount of people for the day and go for it. So there you go. That's my thoughts on the weekend versus the weekdays, because in that conversation on Twitter that I was talking about, it came down to crowds, but crowds are avoidable. But more than a couple of us in that, well, I didn't because I can kind of go whenever I want. I can go weekend or weekday right now. I can set my schedule the way I choose. But like were those in that schedule who do work the weekend. So they really don't have a choice but to go weekday. Yes, they want to avoid the crowds and stuff, but they can't go on Saturday and Sunday anyway. So I don't know, man. That's my thoughts on the difference between weekends and weekdays. If you're a weekend warrior, awesome. I'll see you out there. If you're a weekday warrior, awesome. I'll see you out there. Either way, in the end, either way, it don't matter to me. I'll be there. And I can prove that point too, because, when it comes down to scheduling, like I said, what if I took Ski Rex Media on the road? Something I'm thinking about doing next season, because it's too late to do it now. And with this kind of terrible winter, I wouldn't want to do it. But what if I take, Ski Rex Media on tour? Obviously, if I just run, and I've thought about this, if I just run down south, start in the south and just work my way north, whatever, way I want to go, hit all the mountains in Vermont, say. And that could include some of the little, local hills that you don't even know about. That could even include some of the abandoned ones, like Hogback. People still ski and ride Hogback all the time. Excuse me. So if I did that, some of it would absolutely have to be during the week, and some of it would absolutely have to be on the weekends. I mean, I guess I could just do it one a week, and then pick my time, weekend or weekday. But in that case, I would probably want to do it on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, because that's when people are there. And if I want to, say, do a podcast episode with other people, have to do it on weekends. Or what if I, finished writing that book with a couple of stories in it and people want a signature or a photo? What if I become famous? What if I even just become Z-list famous? Which is fine, because Z is for zero wrong with that. Famous is famous, and that's a reused joke. But only one other person knows it, so it doesn't matter. But what if, again, it all comes down to scheduling. Maybe that's what it comes down to. Maybe there really is no difference socially or crowd-wise or anything. It really just comes down to scheduling, yours or someone else's. So there you go. That's my thoughts on it. And I could sum this up. What are we at now? We're at 18 and a half minutes. So after cutting out a couple things, we're going to be down to 15, 16 minutes. So I figure it really is just come down to one's scheduling and then one's preference. I can't tell you the difference between weekend skiing and weekday skiing. I don't see the difference other than what one prefers to do and their reasons for doing it. And those reasons are completely up to you. That's the brilliance of being a human. You make your own choices for what you want to do. So there you go. Weekend, weekday, you tell me what you think. What would you rather do? I know what some of the fans would rather do because we talked about it. Maybe you're different. Maybe you like to split it and go 4 days. Maybe you like to go Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Or Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Maybe you like to do all 4. Either way, let me know. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Next week, like I said, because Valentine's Day is Friday, we're going to do a love theme episode, kind of, sort of. I don't really know how themed it's going to be, but I've got an idea of something to talk about, all right? So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, hit the like, subscribe, share it with your friends, leave comments, go down in the description. All the contact information is there. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of it. Follow Ski Rex Media, enjoy Ski Rex Media, skirexmedia.com for the daily written content and everything else. Once again, this is Tim. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing with your friends, and thank you for enjoying it, those who do. I will check you later, and I will see you out on the hill. Thank you.